ladies and gentlemen, apparently, now I'm too much of a sciencey guy, but this is a pretty big deal. I think it's a pretty big deal for two reasons. One, it's a pretty big deal that we have the technology to be able to tell that Mars has flowing rivers of briny water. And it's a pretty big deal that Mars has flowing rivers of briny water. Over the weekend, NASA hinted that they had a major Martian mystery solved. And yesterday, they announced that Mars has seasonal rivers of flowing water. It's there on present-day Mars. What appeared to be a dry void of red-orange rock is wetter than previously thought. Liquid water is the key to terrestrial life, as you know. Now, and the reason why is because on the sixth day, God gave Adam and Eve water. No, that's not what it was. It's that we emerged from the swampy goo, ladies and gentlemen. Not as humans, but as little, like, tadpole-looking things.
I can see it.
Yeah. You still see a little bit on me, right? Like, if it gets a little bit warm, I get a little bit, like, greeny and slimy a little bit. But it, at the very least, suggests that it's possible that there is some form of life on Mars. And what is, I mean, this is, for the scientists are just, they're just over the moon, as it were, about this. And I don't know what it means to our future, but it certainly means that there is, I mean, look, it's very hard to believe that there's not life on some other galaxy, solar system. I mean, you're finding water on Mars, for gosh sakes. Now, there are others who get very skeptical of these things. And they are nuts. Now, in this piece that I am reading, where I got this news, I believe it's from the New York Times. And Jim Green, director of the planetary science at NASA headquarters, in a press briefing, had said, if we go back 3 billion years and take a look at Mars, Mars was a very different planet. It had what we believe was a huge ocean, perhaps as large as 2/3 of the northern hemisphere. But something happened. Mars suffered a major climate change and lost its surface water. Now, why do I read that? Well, I read that to you now to set the table for the following sound. I read that to you because anyone who would have seen this story would have seen that quote. And I read that to you to show you just how stupid Rush Limbaugh thinks his audience is, and just how stupid Rush Limbaugh's audience is, and just how demented the conservative mind has become over the past 15, 20 years. And it's becoming clearer and clearer, I think, to people with what's going on with Boehner, what's going on with Donald Trump. But here is one of the driving forces behind that transition into their insanity. It is Rush Limbaugh, and here's how he responded, in addition to shaming his producer for getting excited at the science. That's fine. I am pro-shaming producers. But listen carefully to what Rush Limbaugh has to say.
There's so much fraud. You know, there's Snerdley came in today. What's this NASA news? Is NASA news all exciting? I said, yeah, they found flowing water up there. No kidding? Wow, Snerdley said. Flowing water on Mars. I said, why does that excite you? What, do you go in there next week? What's the big deal about flowing water on Mars? I don't know, man. It just, wow. I said, you know what? When they start selling iPhones on Mars, that's when it'll matter to me.
Pause it.
I said, what do you think?
Now,
Wow. Wow.
I mean, you get a good sense of like Limbaugh's sort of intellectual curiosity here. The idea that doesn't mean anything to me. Doesn't mean anything to the audience. In fact, I'm going to disparage you for even getting excited about some type of natural wonder, some type of massive discovery, the potential for life on a planet within our solar system. But let's continue.
What are you going to do with this news? I said, look at the temperature data that has been reported by NASA, has been made up. It's fraudulent for however many years. There isn't any warming. There hasn't been for 18 and a half years. And yet they're lying about it. They're just making up the amount of ice at the North and South Poles. They're making up the temperatures. They're lying and making up false charts and so forth. So what's to stop them from making up something that happened on Mars?
Pause it. Go back a little bit. I want you to be clear here. Here is Rush Limbaugh. He is one of the last holdouts now who are denying climate change in toto. He's not just denying that it's man-made or man contributes to climate change or that man has the capacity to slow climate change. He is denying it whole hog, and I do mean hog. He is actually accusing NASA of a massive conspiracy to fool not just Americans, but the world. Days after China has said they're going to implement a cap and trade program within the next 2 years. NASA is engaged in a conspiracy to fool even the Chinese, which it's surprising in some way that Limbaugh is not applauding that we've been able to dupe the Chinese. Continue.
The amount of ice at the North and South Poles are making up the temperatures. They're lying and making up false charts and so forth. So what's to stop them from making up something that happened on Mars that will help advance their left-wing agenda on this planet? And Snerdley paused. Oh, yeah, you're right. You know, when I play golf with excellent golfers, I ask them, does it ever get boring playing well? Does it ever get boring hitting shot after shot where you want to hit it? And they all look at me and smile and they say, never. Well, folks, it never gets boring being right either, like I am. But it doesn't mean it is any less frustrating. Being right and being alone is a challenging existence. Okay, so there's flowing water on Mars.
Pause it.
Yep.
I would also imagine being terribly wrong and being alone is even more of a challenging existence. Poor Snerdley. Just had his hopes and dreams smashed by this near professional golfer who tells his producer that he's silly to believe. I mean, it's quite possible his producer never saw Capricorn 1, and in that case, you would not know that the whole moon thing was fake. Anyways, continue.
Yip, yahoo. And hey, you know me. I'm Science 101, big-time guy, tech advance it. You know it. I'm all in. But
Pause it. Incidentally, if you're a big-time science guy, you probably went past Science 101. I don't even know if they teach a class called Science 101.
What type of science?
Just science. Just science.
I'm here for the Science 101 class. Big into that. Phones, fucking TV better, trees. Yeah,
Rocks.
count me in.
Okay, continue.
NASA has been corrupted by the current regime. I want to find out what they're going to tell us. Okay, flowing water on Mars. If we're even to believe that, what are they going to tell us that means? That's what I'm going to wait for. Because I guarantee you, let's just wait and see. This is September 28th. Let's just wait and see. Don't know how long it's going to take. But this news that there is flowing water on Mars is somehow going to find its way into a technique to advance the leftist agenda. I don't know what it is. I would assume it would be something to do with global warming, and maybe there was once an advanced civilization. If they say they found flowing water, next they're going to find a graveyard.
And thus we have, ladies and gentlemen, closed the circle, and I go back to that quote that surely Rush Limbaugh knew had been said when he read that piece and told Snerdley it was all just a fiction anyways, and Snerdley whimpered off into the corner. If we go back 3 billion years, take a look at Mars. Mars was a very different planet. It had what we believe was a huge ocean, perhaps as large as 2/3 of the northern hemisphere. But something happened. Mars suffered a major climate change and lost its surface water. So there you have Rush Limbaugh pretending to his audience that he can see where this is going, even though it's already there. It's a description of the change that took place on Mars. Rush Limbaugh, never at a loss if he is assuming that his audience is ignorant and unread. In fact, he's built a career on it. Let's go to the...
My fellow Americans, look, in light of the new discoveries on Mars, in addition to the water, we found a graveyard. The hieroglyphics and other symbols from this graveyard reveal some interesting information, which some of you will find disturbing. But as president, and I should say your future sheikh, which I'll explain in a minute, it's my responsibility to let you know. Apparently, this civilization on Mars had deviated from the one true and living religion of Islam, leading Allah to punish Mars and destroy that civilization. We now know with absolute scientific certitude that if we do not implement Sharia, our planet will flood. So I am beginning to commence with the first steps of that by kidnapping the first white woman child born in each middle American family to be sold off into slavery. Thank you all.
I fear that radical Muslims who want to control the Middle East and ultimately the world would love to see In God We Trust stricken from our money and replaced with In Muhammad We Trust.
Next step, these crackers always call it. It's never the liberal MSNBC sissies like Chris Hayes that are on the ball. It's always some guy in Virginia who's like, Muhammad's coming. That kid didn't really build a clock. They're on it.